ladies and gentlemen, once again, coming to you live from my mother's basement. Here's Johnny. This is a response video to Mr. Daniel Parkin of the YWC. In his last video that I've watched, not the last video released, but the last video that I watched, the question was asked of whether or not Punk is a good heel. CM Punk being a good heel. Now, Mr. Parkin went into a bunch of different details of his own as to why or against, and honestly, it's a great video. You guys should check it out. If you're checking this out, you've probably already seen the other one. I wanted to weigh in on the subject because, one, I'm not really a CM Punk guy, so I can kind of sit back and, look at it objectively rather than subjectively just kind of kiss his ass and praise him where it's maybe not needed. And also, I don't hate the guy, so I don't come at it like, oh, he fucking sucks. I just see it as a guy that's been watching wrestling for, over almost 26 years now, and I think I have a lot to offer on this subject. Hopefully this is very brief, like all of my past audios have been, and you guys can kind of agree or disagree if you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings either way. I just thought I would present this information to you, and you would be able to judge for yourselves. Now, in order to answer the question up front, is CM Punk a good heel? In my humble opinion, he is as good of a heel as John Cena is a face. Why do I say that? Well, he has feuding him with Cena for so long. Let's go into that. It made him an internet darling. Over half the crowd at times can't stand Cena. They were going to cheer Punk just because it was the guy that was against Cena. And despite what role is being played against Cena, it could be, fucking Big Show knocking him out. It could be, I even think that after a while that we were all getting behind the Johnny Ace character that was feuding with CM Punk because we were just tired of seeing Cena all the time. Now, if you're not having the fans consistently boo you and they're still trying to cheer you, it's a lot like what Ring of Honor was doing with Kevin Steen, is trying to work him as a heel even though the audience was entirely behind him and they weren't going to boo him. And also, this is going to cause a lot of confusion with the casual fan. Now, casual fans are going to be confused because the original heel turn wasn't even treated as like a, oh my god, kind of moment when he, came out to the ring and hit the Rock. This is, that was all back when I was still kind of watching the product. So, if anything that he's done nowadays, I have to hear second, third hand, or go watch a segment on, YouTube or something to catch up, and honestly, it feels very forced. He didn't just kick ass and turn on the fans immediately. He didn't knock out The Rock, who is, a fucking legend, and then go off on a fucking big, huge promo there that night and make his impact felt, worldwide. It was like a brooding kind of thing. Like, they wanted to make him a tweener at first for a few weeks, and then they decided, oh, fuck it, we'll go full bore. Now, here's another thing. WWE has not allowed him to be very creative on the microphone like he was during his, Big Hero Summer 2011 angle. All of Punk's heat has been super cheap at every chance that he gets. And by having Jericho put him over as such a big face at WrestleMania, it just seemed kind of really stupid to throw it all down the drain when they did. Somebody else could have filled that role as a big heel in the company. They have still plenty of people that could have done it on the roster, and it would have elevated somebody else up the card to take that role. But WWE was too afraid to move Cena down the card, and so they wanted to take the guy that was still working kind of the program with Cena and keep them in that top spot, because all they were going to do was pass the title between Punk, Rock, and Cena, and it's been so out there and so blatant and so obvious for anybody that's over the age of, I don't know, maybe 10 to logically come to this conclusion, that a lot of people just they feel bad for Punk, because what was really the reason for ending his title reign other than to put the belt back on Cena, a guy that they hate? So how are you going to boo a guy like that? He could do everything in the world to piss you off, but you're not going to boo him. His promos, they deal with good vocabulary, but they seem empty or forced half of the time. Like, it's almost like somebody is giving him basic talking points to go over backstage before he comes out, and the rest of the time he's just trying to waste to try to get it over. They take too long. It's almost like a Triple H promo half the time. And his fucking manager, Paul Heyman, has served little to no purpose other than, glorified belt holder. And that shit with the Shield not being, involved and under the leadership of Punk, really, he should have been a mastermind behind that. It would have given them a reason for people to not like him even more. He could have led a group, again, could have been, more successful as a title holder, which is something he never was with the new Nexus, which I actually think was some of his better promo work than even now. Even though the group was, shit by the point that he got to it anyway, it showed that he was, a head honcho guy and to be taken a little bit more seriously. Another reason that, Punk is not being treated as a heel, and it obviously isn't a good heel because of it, is that, The Rock came back after so long. He's being out of wrestling for, 6, 8 years, whatever the hell it was, and he wins the title in the first time that they ever lock up. There was no chasing the title for The Rock. You couldn't really get behind The Rock, other than just be an older fan like me that was like, yeah, Rock's gonna win because he's a fucking Rock, and that was really it. Now, again, I'm gonna tell you that I'm not a CM Punk guy, but even not being a CM Punk guy, I saw no reason for his title reign to come to an end. In fact, with my own little series of Book It Better, the CM Punk, fucking title reign, from Book It Better, Royal Rumble, through WrestleMania, through Survivor Series, even for this year, is something that I'm trying to work on. It had already been a historic title reign for him, so why would you just kind of throw it away to put the belt back on Cena again? Why would you make Punk a, over a year and a half long transitional champion just to get back to Cena? Because that's what it makes it feel like. It doesn't feel like Punk's reign was very special. It looks like he was just holding the place while this whole Cena and Rock angle kind of came at us again for another year. It just really, it lost a lot of its luster. And it lost it very early on because, especially with that shit how Rock debuted on the show again and said that at Royal Rumble he was going to face whoever was the winner of the program between Punk and Cena, so automatically you knew that not only was Cena going to be back in the title picture, but he was going to be fighting Rock for it one way or another. Now, Punk losing the title to Rock, to me, seems like it was very similar to the spark that got the fans to turn on Sheamus and to cheer Daniel Bryan, no matter what Daniel Bryan does now, because of their WrestleMania match. It seemed like it was one of those moments, like it was just kind of unnecessary, and they shouldn't have done it. Another reason why Punk doesn't work as a good heel for me is that he's very small. He's a small kind of guy. He doesn't scream bad guy. His mannerisms actually, to me, scream anti-hero. And he could and should be used, as like an atypical role model, because not everybody wants their kids to be covered in tattoos, but at the same time, what he stands for, not using the drugs and the alcohol, this is WWE just fighting the grain with this guy. Like, I get the whole straight edge society back when he did it, and the way that he did it made the fans hate him more then than they do now, and that's just a fact. I mean, listen to the fucking crowd reaction back then. But at the same time, he wasn't in a main event spot, so that kind of cheaper heat worked for what role he played then, which was a mid-card kind of guy, which he really never broke out of because it just seemed like he was holding the belt for when Cena would take it again. And he's had excellent matches in terms of work rate and, moveset, all that shit. But in terms of furthering a storyline, he's still trapped in that same storyline with Rock and Cena, that he was holding the belt essentially, and that anything that involved AJ Lee killed any chances of him being taken seriously for me afterward. And I know that Kane and Daniel Bryan had to spin off into a tag team and were still involved with that bitch for a while, and she ruined and turned to shit everything that she touched, even the fucking Dolph Ziggler versus Cena storyline, which could have been big. This one went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but for me, I mean, 10 minutes is really good, because I can normally talk for a half hour. But I'm going to throw all those ideas out there, and I'm going to let you guys decide what you think. I just hope that you'll hear some of these reasons and agree with me that the way that Punk has been presented, he's a shit heel. He's a great worker. I'll give him that. I understand why so many people like him, love him, want to worship him, whatever. But honestly, he doesn't do it for me as a heel. Not now. Maybe back a while ago, not so much now, and he shouldn't have been a heel. It just didn't make sense. This is Johnny, live from my mother's basement, and I'm tagging out.